Hello ladies and gentlemen, Xcentero here and welcome back to another video. I hope all of you are doing well because I'm as always, and in today's video we're going to be discussing, or I'm going to be telling you guys, 7 of some of the best tips and tricks I've got for you guys in Infinite Flight. Now this will make your Infinite Flight experience a little bit more realistic, a bit more fun, and obviously a lot more better. So, without further ado, let's just get straight into it. Now, the first one I actually want to do doesn't really involve Infinite Flight, funny enough. It actually involves a little app called Flightrader 24. Now, I know pretty much everyone watching this video will be fully aware of it. Now, what I want to do is just pop onto here. Now, this is for your route planning and obviously what you want to do. So, we're going to choose a current route here. So we see the A320neo in the Lufthansa. And obviously, let's say I want to fly from Heathrow to Munich. Brilliant, this is what this flight's doing. Now you can use this here to find the exact gate that the aircraft took off from. So here we go, see Terminal 2, this Lufthansa A320 took off from. Now there's obviously, you can look at the previous aircraft that have flown the route in that, but you can see the route here coming to Munich. And then there is a way on here to see all of the previous flights. So you'll, adverts, you'll type up the flight number, which is LH2473. So we'll go up here and we'll go LH2473 and we'll see, oh look, this flight exists. Okay, so we're going to go onto the recent ones at the bottom. We're going to go, 29th of August, look at that, and we can play back the whole flight. And what we can now also see is the gate the aircraft ended up at, which would be Terminal 2 here. And if we head back over here, I believe it should have still departed London Heathrow, Terminal 2. Yeah, so that's how you use Flightrader. So that is, again, the first tip we've got. So make sure you use Flightrader. It shows you the terminals and the gates, and this will really enhance your experience on Infinite Flight, making it much more realistic. Now, while we get into the next trip, if you guys are new here, please do feel free to like and subscribe. You know, we're growing pretty quick. We're pushing on to 6,000. Hopefully we can get there soon. And also channel memberships are now available. Now I have just updated it, so all levels of channel memberships guarantee you flight time with myself, obviously, which is brilliant fun because we can also engage in the community more, and it's a guarantee as well, even during hectic times for myself, hopefully. And there have been no exceptions as of yet, which is brilliant. So the next tip we want to get to is landing. Now, when a lot of people land, they use these parking brakes. Now, you're not actually supposed to use them. So what you're meant to do is, you see landing right now, we got the spoilers armed and everything, and we're just going to try and land casually. Now, I'd recommend using the HUD mode if you want to get a smoother landing like that. And just pop down the reverse thrust like I've done here. So you go on the power and you push it down the opposite way to accelerate, and you see the reverse thrust come out. And you also see, because the spoilers were armed, they automatically come out. Now, not only does this not ruin the landing gear on the brakes of the aircraft, you know, it brings the aircraft to a little bit more of a realistic halt here on the runway, and then you can just use the rudder brakes, you know, to gently bring down the aircraft to the slowest speed you want. And we will come off a little bit later, so we'll bring up our flaps and spoilers off now, and then obviously you'll exit the runway a little bit later. So now we're at the opposite end of the runway. I don't even know if we're on the same runway now, are we? Nope, we're now on the opposite runway. Cool. Anyways, but that's fine. Yeah, make sure you don't use those landing brakes. Now, the next thing I want to know is a bit of an Infinite Flight trick I use, and most people, when taking photos on Infinite Flight, quite a few people will just casually use screenshot on their phone. You know, they'll just press the on and off button, or however your mobile device takes screenshots. Now, using replay mode, which you guys would just see me go into here, is a much better way of doing it. Now, you guys won't be able to see, unfortunately, because I have to cut off some of the screen. But on the bottom right of the screen, there's little 4 emblems. On the far right, you've got the 3 little lines, the little camera, the little earth. And then next to it, you've got a little camera with a little square box around it. And if you just press that button, it takes a full HD 1080p or better screenshot of your aircraft. Now, I'm not going to go into my camera roll and show you guys that screenshot, because there's stuff in there that obviously I may not need revealed to everyone yet, as there is some videos in there and some photos, etc. So I'm not going to show you guys that, but it will go straight to your camera roll directly, which is, again, another brilliant thing to have an Infinite Flight and to be using here. That screenshot feature, I use it for all of my YouTube video thumbnails. Obviously the quality does degrade when I go onto other apps and that, because I'm always transferring videos and photos about, which is quite unfortunate. The next one we're going to discuss is trim. Now this trim thing is phenomenal. It makes your flying experience so much easier. You know, you can go 100% trim or not. I've always used to settle for about 14% trim to 15%. Now I know that's not much trim. I know it's very little, but it does make a difference. Now I think the ballpark standard for most infant flight planes is about 30% trim. So we use that because that's what most of them spawn in on nowadays, and we're just short fine on it. And I can see already now the aircraft you can see here is automatically pitched up a little bit more. Now that's because of that 30% trim I've had set. Now the only issue it does have is it will obviously set the aircraft into stall at a higher speed, but that's absolutely fine because it means you can land at a faster speed, again making your landing speeds a whole lot more realistic on the flight simulator here. So please do make sure you use the trim, because that again is a really important thing to use. It also will make you more realistic as a mobile flight simulator pilot. Obviously you can only become so realistic when using the mobile flight simulators, but that's obviously pretty cool. And then we will hopefully see these spoilers disarm themselves in just a second. Okay, the spoilers have just died on us. They don't want to go down. That's really weird. Okay, I'll bring them up menu. Sometimes the spoilers bring themselves down when you're using reverse thrust. I was just waiting to see if that would happen. Now, the next thing I want to talk to you guys is about on the home screen. It should hopefully be there. They're not always there. Here we are. There's a tutorial there on the Challenger 350. That's not the specific one I'm looking for. You know, this whole kind of home page is really bizarre. Like 208 days ago. That's so long. So it's not quite there, but there are ATC tutorials. Now these air traffic control tutorials are really important, and I think it's stuff that you guys should definitely be using as infant flight users, especially if you're a new player and you're watching this video. I definitely recommend going over to the infant flight community and just watch some ATC tutorials, or even videos that I've got. I've got a few out there on how to use ATC. It is crucial that you have a good understanding of how to use ATC in infant flight, because it's a little bit different to most flight simulators. But the most important thing about it is when you're flying expert server, the air traffic control don't have much patience. From my experience, and from what people have told me, they do not have an awful amount of patience. Obviously, because they expect everyone to have already watched these videos, but quite a lot of people haven't. This is also why I tend to use training server and casual server, because I don't like to get in the fudge of air traffic control getting annoyed. So I try to avoid it. But of course, this shouldn't be a scare. Do use expert server, but just make sure you're fully competent with the ATC and how to use it and how to go by their instructions. So I definitely recommend you use ATC. Now the next thing we're going to discuss is calibration. So we go to the little three lines at the bottom and this little calibrate button. You guys will see me use it quite a lot in my videos. Now what it does is, so I'm holding my iPad level here, but if I all of a sudden tilt my iPad up, you see that the aircraft goes up. But when I calibrate it, that is now flying the aircraft straight. Now I know that's obviously not a very good demonstration, but you can see there, because I've calibrated it, and now I've got to tilt my iPad all the way up. If I change the iPad, and then now, you know, I keep recalibrating it at different angles of the iPad, and it sort of levels out. So we're going to bring the aircraft back down to normal flying, probably bring up this gear and that, reduce the drag on these big lovely aircraft. We do not want 0 altitude though. There we go. So obviously calibrations are critical, they're crucial, and they're very important to use in your flight, because again it will make you become, you know, better when you're for landings. It will definitely help with smoother landings. It will definitely help with your angle of attack and that, especially when you come to land. So every time you disengage autopilot, I recommend calibration like that, and then disengage autopilot. And you can see here, obviously it leaves a little bit of a bump, which calibrate again, but yeah, it's good. Now the next thing I'd like to discuss is this little rudder thing. Now you can see me zooming it about. I obviously don't use the rudder like this, because you know, it's going to send the aircraft flying about where you don't want to go. But you know, when you make a left turn, for example, if you lose a little bit of the rudder just on here, it actually makes your turn a little bit more smooth. Now this is used quite widely in general aviation, you know, but you can see the turn is definitely a lot smoother, and you know, the more of the rudder we use, the smoother the turn is going to be. And then we're going to try to level out on our turn here, and just slowly bring that rudder back in whilst finishing off on our turn. Now obviously that turn was a lot steeper than many of the other turns. You can see if we just normally turn left, the aircraft, it takes ages to turn. So, do make sure you use that rudder when making turns on infinite flight, because I definitely recommend it. It will definitely make your flight a lot easier and your experience a lot better. So if these 7 tips and tricks helped you guys with your infinite flight experience, please let me know, because I've got so many. I've probably got hundreds that will make your experience a lot better. So let me know down below if you guys would like to hear any of them. But other than that, if you're new here again, you made it so, please feel free to subscribe, because we are pushing on again, growing the family. Discord server link is in the description and all of the medias. But other than that, I'll see you all in my next video. Good night.